This bombshell story in the New York Times by Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan paints a compelling picture about what was going on both in the White House and in the DOJ when it came down to the decision whether or not to release the Epstein files. But there's one part of this that's not being talked about in the story that I think is worth mentioning. And this comes from my perspective as a criminal defense lawyer with nearly 30 years experience defending cases in federal court. I know how the chess pieces move on the board. Prior to the release of these records by Bondi, there has been a long-standing position from the DOJ that nothing related to the Epstein case should be released to the public, no investigative notes, witness statements, etc., because it was all part of an ongoing investigation. And when an investigation is ongoing, the DOJ is very reluctant to release anything that might jeopardize the investigation. That's pretty plausible logic, and that's pretty much been the reason why we haven't seen anything up until this point. Now, Trump pushed for the release of the Epstein files during his re-election campaign. Bondi, in trying to honor that campaign promise, she put out that memo July 7th. This is where the DOJ made a critical strategic mistake, in my opinion. When she put out that June 7th memo, basically saying that there are no other criminal targets that are going to be investigated by the DOJ, and essentially closing this ongoing investigation, that put a ton of political pressure both on the DOJ and the White House to produce all the Epstein files. This is also what caused Massey and Khanna to go into Congress and get that bill passed to release all the Epstein files. That bill passed with overwhelming support in both houses of Congress, was sent to Trump in a veto-proof format, meaning he had no choice but to sign that bill and to authorize the release of these records. This is where things went off the rail, and this is a piece that's missing from that story that I think gives you a lot of context as to why the DOJ put themselves in this box where they had no choice but to release the records, and now why they're struggling so hard to continue to protect further release of these records. This is fascinating stuff, and this is going to definitely be a book that I'm going to be reading because I'm curious to see how this story ends.